Guys, Dwyane Wade's statue reveal had to be the worst thing I've seen in my entire life. It was horrible. So Dwyane Wade, you guys know, used to be an amazing NBA player, and they decided to give him a statue in Miami, and like super early, by the way. Normally these guys don't get statues till way later, but he got a statue, and gosh, was it awful. And not only was it like really bad, but the internet, like NBA Twitter, went crazy with it. Like, here are some of my favorite tweets that I saw. That face said, "Who the heck is that?" That is, you can't tell, is that disdain, is that contempt, is that admiration? Could be anything. This guy said Miami Heat did Dwyane Wade dirty, saying he looks like Lauren Fishburne. I can definitely see the resemblance there. Here's Columbia trying to distract the Yale kicker with the Dwyane Wade statue. I don't know if this is real. I really hope it's real because it's hilarious. Here we go. Here's some nice art putting Dwyane Wade's statue face into, you know, this classic painting. I love it. Boss Logic saying last one, I swear. I think this is like some Avengers here. You've got the Ronaldo statue that was botched a couple years back with the Dwyane Wade statue as Thanos. It's just a masterpiece. And then of course you've got this beautiful collage here. You have Wade with the Heatles, Chris Bosh and LeBron. Then you've got Wade with his statue face, replacing his wedding face with, I guess, his wedding with Gabrielle Union. Then you have pink turtleneck Wade. I think this was when he was at the NBA dunk contest and he gave some really suspect scores. And then you have the classic, you know, the Wade to LeBron. I love this one. I was actually just watching this movie recently on a trip. Dwyane Wade, you know, frozen like they did Han Solo in Star Wars. Just really creative stuff here. And then, you know, if we're gonna get serious here, we've got Bill Simmons saying, Bill Simmons calls Dwyane Wade's statue the worst statue of all time. And after seeing the internet react like that, like, I needed to know what were the real key stakeholder reactions to what happened here. Like, what was Dwyane Wade's reaction? What were the Sculptors' reactions? So Dwyane Wade, you know, here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I have an iPhone. Social media, see all things, man. See all the. It's a lot of talk about me in this world. Y'all gotta know me by now. I care, but I don't.
And the Sculptors, amazingly, there's some reporting here on what they said. Amrany said, I couldn't do better than that. I don't think anybody else can do better than that. It is what it is. Imagine the statue honoring your legacy and the sculptor just says, it is what it is. That's just diabolical, and we will love it forever. I just love the fact that the Sculptors almost had like an NBA post-game press conference on their statue unveiling. And, you know, so this is obviously a mess, but it didn't really answer. I haven't gotten an answer to the question of like, how did this mess happen? How did we get to this place with this guy back here? And really, like, why did this go mega viral? Like, why do people care about this so much? You know, for me, the reason I care about it is I grew up in Toronto playing basketball, and I still remember, you know, being up at a cottage, you know, a good Canadian summer cottage, and reading the news, because Twitter wasn't as big back then, no Woj bombs, about Chris Bosh leaving the Toronto Raptors to go to Miami, and then eventually LeBron following, and them making the Heatles with Dwyane Wade, and I remember just being absolutely gutted that my favorite Raptor just abandoned us for Miami. And more recently, I've really developed a surprising interest in classical architecture, and also a deep disdain for modern art. You know, I have a saying I like to say about kind of like the downfall of culture in our society, which is great young men don't want to make beautiful art anymore. All they want to do is build B2B SaaS, and it's heartbreaking. And so this story, you know, that combination of basketball, that combination of modern architecture being horrible and a yearning for classic architecture, I had to talk about it. And if you talk about great artists of the past, like, did we as a society forget how to make sculptures? Because not like sculptures are a new thing. Like this sculpture, the Abduction of Proserpina, this sculpture was made by Bernini when he was 26 years old in the year 1622. And I mean, look at the detail on this. Look at the hand pressing on the thighs. But anyway, after seeing it, you know, just talked about it a bunch of times, a lot of people were also saying that this keeps happening. Like, why does this keep happening? And I went and dug back, and it's true. There's been a lot of really bad statues lately of athletes. You've got this Andy Roddick one, a tennis player. It's awful. It looks nothing like him. And of course, you have the Ronaldo statue, where this thing is just, I don't know what the heck happened here. This Ronaldo one is awful, but I couldn't find a clear answer on like, why does this keep happening? Why do they keep messing up these statues? So I had to dig in. And so you may not know this about the Dwyane Wade statue, but the unveiling wasn't the first time he saw this statue. Like, he was directly involved in the process the entire time. Here is him in the studio looking face to face with what looks like, I guess, an early rendition of the face before they cast it in bronze. Here's him with the whole team, and he's got, looks like, I think like some of the Miami Heat guys management are in there too. And so these people that they hired to do the sculpture, they're called Rotblatt Amrany. And they've been doing sculptures with the NBA, what looks like, for a long time. You know, they have some great ones. Some of my favorite ones they've done after looking into it are the MJ one. I love that one of him dunking over, I don't know, all of humanity, I guess. The Shaq one is good. The Shaq one doing the classic, the way he would dunk like that. This Bob Cousy one, I didn't know this Bob Cousy one existed. It's nice. It's like real smooth. And then of course they have some bad ones. Like they have this new Kobe one that they came out with. And I get it, you know, Vanessa was up there and saying we picked it. You know, Kobe actually picked this pose out. I think it's from his 81-point game on my Toronto Raptors, which again, gutted. But it just, the proportions are off. Like Kobe didn't look like this. But what my main point here is that these guys aren't rookies. This isn't their first statue. They've done this a ton of times before. So how did it end up like this for the Dwyane Wade statue? Well, it turns out that this was actually done intentionally. So a lot of sports fans, you know, like you guys, you might not realize this, but a lot of time artists will take creative liberties in creating their art. They don't want to just make a perfect one-to-one image of themselves. They want to change it a bit in order to express something, in order to tell a story about something, in order to convey an emotion. Like here's Dwyane Wade where he was talking about that.
And with the Miami Heat and myself, what we wanted to do is we wanted to capture a moment that represented the organization, represented myself, and represented the city. I felt like we captured that moment in an artistic form, an artistic way. If I wanted to look like me, I'll just stand outside the arena, y'all, and take photos. You don't need to look like me. It's an artistic version of a moment that happened that we're trying to cement.
So I guess with his design, Dwyane Wade, with that, you know, crazy menacing face, he wanted to look strong, he wanted to look menacing, he wanted to look dominant, that jawline. And we know about Dwyane Wade's jawline. You know, that explains why his statue turned out this way. But like, why does it keep happening? I think the best reason that I've seen, you know, on top of the creative expression, but even you can still do creative expression and have it look bad. I think it's that it's not always the case that the best artists are involved. Like you look at the Ronaldo statue, there's a whole video about the sculptor who made this. He's some local Madeira guy, which Madeira is like this small island. You know, it's probably pretty unlikely that the guy who makes sculptures in Madeira is like the best sculptor.
Since you had not created a bust before, what made you think you could do a bust of Ronaldo for the airport?
Eu gosto de desafios.
And he made it, and he got backlash, and there's this video of like him and his wife, and they're crying because of all the backlash that I get. And I get it, like people don't deserve to be, you know, just completely ridiculed for their work. But you'd think at the end of it, he would have like learned from that and realized like, hey, I got to do better at my job. But he actually, in his interview, like doubles down and says, no. Like the first statue, because it was so bad, they had to redo it. But the first statue, it had to be made that way. It was like good that it was made that way. And that he wouldn't redo it. Like he doesn't think anything was wrong with the first one, which to me is just insane.
Esta do Ronaldo que eu fez, se eu não fizesse ele da maneira como fez, já tinha caído no esquecimento já há muito tempo. Portanto, também às vezes é preciso ter uma certa ousadia de ir contra o habitual, também para dar um impacto, porque embora haja pessoas que façam chacota, façam comentário negativo, mas existem muitas pessoas que dão valor. E o que tenho aprendido durante este tempo todo é que, embora seja o número de pessoas que consigam ver o lado positivo da obra, esse número pequeno é suficiente para nos dar força.
And you see that same sort of ego response with the sculptors in the Dwyane Wade statue, doubling down and saying like basically it was like the best that they could do. Like no one could do better. Like it's great. We'll all love it. It's like these artists that, yes, creative expression is important, but if it's bad, you need to check your ego on the side and realize like get better at expressing yourself creatively, which these artists don't want to do. So that's a big reason. And then that left me with the question of like, why do people care? Like, why do I care so much? Why did it light the entire internet on fire, right? And I think the big difference is because sports fans aren't always art fans, right? And what does that mean? I get it. Like to sports fans, right? Like to you guys, art is the game. Like the game is the art, like the beautiful game. That's what they call soccer. Like the art of playing the game. Basketball is an art form. You see it with the way players play. And a really big part of that, of sports fans, is remembering the past exactly as it happened. I think about when Kawhi Leonard hit the shot, and it's all about remembering the exact play-by-play moments of how that happened. You know, the exact way he went from Ben Simmons to Embiid, and then drilled an Embiid, and then there's a guy squatting at the bottom watching it, and then, Kawhi after hits the shot, and he's got like the Gatorade tongue going on, and the 3 bounces or 4, whatever bounces. It's really important to sports fans that you remember things exactly as it happened. And so when you have a statue that's made where creative expression is involved with the actual look, it's like, no, this isn't exactly what he looked like. Don't be creative with the likeness of the athlete. Like, we need to preserve the memory of those past historical moments of how they were. I even saw a lot of people talking about, why don't we just 3D print statues so they stop messing it up? And there is a really cool company that does this. Like, it looks like they're actually aware. Monumental Labs, they have a tweet about it where they're joking, saying, our team working on the Dwyane Wade statue. Of course, that's Abraham Lincoln. These guys basically, I guess it's not 3D printing, but they like use robotics to carve out of stone, but to exact measurements. Somehow, I don't know, but they don't do bronze, so they couldn't have helped in this point. But it just goes to show, people want exactly what the person looked like in that statue. And then you get into another big reason why people didn't like it is the more woo-woo stuff, right? Because just that isn't enough of like sports fans aren't art fans. Like, that's not going to take over the internet. But it's the more woo-woo stuff of like, I know to me, the Miami Heat, the Heatles, the Big Three, that was a big part of my life growing up. And it feels weird to me to know that future generations will look at the statue of the essence of Dwyane Wade and have it all wrong. If it's misrepresenting what matters to me, does that mean it misrepresents me? Like, does that mean in future generations, they look back at my story, if anyone does, and they won't truly understand what I cared about, what mattered to me, because the representation of it to them is all wrong? And is all sports fans just having that realization, that fear of like, people are not going to remember me. They're not going to remember you, right? So that's one thing. And the second most woo-woo thing, if we go a level deeper, is if I'm afraid and we're all afraid that people won't remember our time exactly how it was, what does that say about what we know about the past? So like all these busts of the Romans, this artwork of the ancient Egyptians, did they actually look anything like that? And what if not only will ourselves not be represented properly in the future, but what makes up ourselves and our ideas and our thoughts today, and like what matters the most to us, is based on misrepresentations on like artistic liberty that people in power back in the day made themselves. And everyone on the internet was having this mass realization and confrontation, whether they knew it or not, that reality as we know it is based off of misconceptions, and the future is going to be based off of misconceptions. And therefore, everything they know is a lie. Or maybe people just don't like looking at statues that are goofy like this one.